Okay, so first thing we'll be covering today is I'll be talking about the best setups during this week, why I didn't trade on Friday and Thursday, and what good setups look like. So, first setup I'll be looking at is Monday's London session. London was actually pretty clean this week, so this is our first setup. As you can see, we made a low at 249. And on NQ, this low never got swept. As you can see, this is our 30-minute cycle in here. Let me just delete this box. If you look over at ES, which is this top right box here, it got swept. So this low now has SMT. Let me just mark this out quickly. There you are. This strong close above this SIBI right here is our change state of delivery. As you can see, after we close and retest this SIBI, we reject and carry on going higher. If you want more of a confirmation, you wait for close above this high, and then obviously a retest, which this candle right here would have been your entry. What do you target? Well, target 30-minute cycle high, and then you see how these highs are really smooth up here. See these highs? These are the types of highs I would be targeting. There you are. Last TP would have been at this high, which obviously did not get hit. This is why I take off most of your position at these types of highs and only leave one or two runners aiming for your whole target. Right, so let's move on to the next one. This is the one I was looking for. Let me just line up all my charts here. Alright. So as you can see, although this low wasn't made inside of our macro time, it was made just outside of it at 20 past. And this breaker was made inside of our macro time. Sorry, I meant to drag that out there. Was made inside of our macro time. So this breaker we can utilize after we get traded above. So as you can see, we come up from this low, which we do have SMT on. Where did I see this SMT? Sorry. Oh yeah, sorry. YM didn't take out this 30-minute cycle low, but obviously NQ and ES did. So we actually have SMT on these lows here, which is also a high time from SMT. So if you go into the high time frames, like 15 minutes or something, this is where you'll see the SMT. After we start trading up and we close above this high right here, which is our intermediate term high, as this high got formed inside of this SIBI right here. So this high is now intermediate term high. After this gets traded above, what do we expect now? We have turned from a sell program into a buy program, so now we're looking for longs. What would our entry be? As I mentioned in, I think it was my time SMT and CSD lecture, I like to enter inside of our BPRs. So if we drag out this SIBI right here, this would have been our entry here after we close, because our BPR is this range and this BISI lining up. So I think that was all the setups for Monday. No, one more setup in the PM session. Well, lunch slash late AM session. Let me line up all my charts again. Okay. Oh, that's not it. So for this one, do I have my inward indicator on? Okay. So what's interesting about this one is, obviously I was talking about my 30-minute cycles earlier. If we take a look at when this high was formed, it was made at exactly 40 past. So if we fractalize this 30-minute cycle range into 10-minute cycles, look what starts to appear. This is our first time cycle high. So if we draw this out quickly, this is our first time cycle high. This never gets traded above on NQ. However, on ES, we take out this high, and this is still time cycle SMT. So this is a high probability SMT. Although it's not as high probability and as strong as if it was on 30-minute cycles, it still works exactly the same way, because this is still high probability, because it fits perfectly inside of our 10-minute cycles. Also, this high was formed at 11:44, just before our macro. Our macro isn't a fixed time range. You can kind of go 3 to 5 minutes before and after our macro. So if the high or low gets formed just before or just after the macro, I still count that as inside of our macro range. What we target, 50% of our 90-minute cycles range, because we took out 90-minute cycle high. So we drag it from the bottom to the top of this green box, which is our 90-minute cycle. As you can see, perfectly respects it with all the bodies. Once I start to see this during our macro time, with a huge rejection, if we close above this SIBI, this is where I'll be closing my trade, because this rejection during our macro time is not a good sign. So I would either take off my whole position or leave one very, very small runner. Okay, so there we've talked about fractalizing down into 10-minute cycles. Going into Tuesday still. Tuesday. Sorry, I need to keep lining up my charts because when was this? So later on. Okay. Where has my time cycle indicator gone for NQ? Sorry, this is turned off for some reason. Let me add it back quickly. There we go. Sorry about that. So, as we can see here, during our macro time, NQ took out this time cycle's high pretty easily. However, ES made equal highs. Again, this is SMT during our macro time with time cycles. This is how you utilize time cycles and SMT together. So now what am I expecting? I'm waiting for a closure beneath this low, or this low if you want to be safe. This low, the reason why I'm interested in this low, although there's no visible BISI here, what's also counted as an imbalance is when two wicks overlap. So as you can see here, this and this wick overlap. What's that? That counts as an imbalance. You can use these and as imbalances as well. That's a little gem for you guys. So
wick is a gap.
There you go. Wick is a gap. This low is our intermediate term low now. So after we trade below this low with this type of displacement during a macro time with SMT, this is a high probability setup. So now what am I taking a trade off? This is now a BPR. Look at that, guys. Look at how the consequent encroachment of that BPR acts as resistance on price. What do we target? As you can see, we target 50% of our 90-minute cycles range, get smashed through, target the low, and then as you can see, we still carry on lower, so now we're leaving a runner down to this time cycles low. Do 2 wicks have to be equal in length, or does it matter? No, it does not matter. As long as they're overlapping, that space where they're overlapping is your gap. Right. I think that's all the... Oh no, one more. This is Wednesdays. Yeah. Wait, can you guys not hear me? Because some people were saying that they're facing a few problems.
I can hear too, bro.
Okay, anyone having problems, just tell them to leave and rejoin, see if that fixes it. Okay. So, next setup of the day. Looking over here. Let me turn this on quickly, just so... Okay. I'll move that chart quickly. So... Now, at first glance, you won't be seeing any SMTs here. You can't see any SMTs. None of our three assets took out this high. All the highs are formed at the same points. There's no like imbalances. So, where is that SMT? Why is this a high probability trade? Well, if you look over at YM, this little yellow box is our new day opening gap. If you look over at NQ and ES, we failed to reach it. This right here is our new day opening gap, in case it's hard to see. This is also SMT. As long as we still get our displacement down below an intermediate term low, this is also a high probability trade because we still got SMT during our macro time. Also, look at when this high got formed, 12:01, just after our hourly open. This SMT confirms the end of our manipulation of our hourly manipulation. Hopefully that made sense. Because as I mentioned in my, my breakdown, that's why I mentioned that in. The recent breakdown that I posted, every candle you see on our chart has an open low high close or an open high low close. If we're bearish, we want to see an open high, which is this wick right here. This is our manipulation. Then we want to see it drop lower into our distribution phase. So on our hourly candle, at the moment, this is where our hourly candle opened. Then we come up, we make our wick. Let me draw out the wick quickly. Sorry. We make our wick up. Make this a line. We make our wick up, and then we start to distribute down. This manipulation phase is necessary. Now, what do we target? We target 50% of this time cycle's range. There we go. Take off a big partial there. And then I'll be holding on to my position even through this move up. Once I see that we are utilizing our 50% range, our equilibrium of the range as support, this is where I'll close my trade because I'm not liking the look of this. Let me see if I marks out any more setups, but I think that's it. Now, the reason why I didn't trade on Thursday and Friday is because, firstly, I was content with enough, and because during the week I think I caught 2 or 3 setups, and if I don't have prime conditions, I would rather just not trade. I'd rather stay out because we had SMT on both sides of the marketplace, which signifies consolidation. When you see SMT on both sides of the marketplace, you should not be trading because, as I mentioned before, signifies a range bound day and SMT. Once one side of that range gets broken, then you can start to look for setups because we no longer have SMT, and you have a clear read on order flow, so you know if we're going to be looking for long setups or short setups. Right. So if we go up to the hourly chart here, so this whole week was our, so there we go. So this is our week on the hourly chart. As you can see, super wicky. This is not something I want to be trading in. So moving on to our weekly outlook. Let's quickly go over to Forex Factory. Monday, most likely going to be a no trade day unless you see an A++ setup. If you see that, you can take it, just lower the size. Tuesday, we have a bit of news at 2 and 3 p.m. Nothing crazy, a bit of consumer confidence at 3 p.m. So maybe, well, this is GMT by the way. If I change this over to, how do I change it over to New York time? Anyways, this is GMT, so you need to figure this out. You can look at Forex Factory on your own computer to see what time it is on your time. Ah, yeah, thank you. Where are we looking? Is it -5? There it is. Okay. Save settings. So, 9 a.m. we got very medium news. 10 a.m. So 9 a.m. I'm expecting a slight manipulation because obviously news is used as manipulation. Then 10 a.m. this is where we have a red folder news. If we get manipulation at 9:30, I'm expecting 10 a.m. to distribute in the direction that we're planning on it to distribute on. So Wednesday we have GDP. So 8:30, I'm expecting this to be utilized as manipulation. 9:45, orange folder, nothing crazy. 10 a.m. this could be our real move. We could see displacement towards our real direction at 10 a.m. 10:30, orange, and then 2 p.m. FOMC meeting minutes. So depending on how earlier on the day we trade, probably after 10:30 we would start to consolidate because we have FOMC meeting minutes in the afternoon, which is a very big news driver. Thursday and Friday, no news days, so we will need to check out the price action when we get there. If it's choppy, do not trade, guys. It's not worth it. You will get chopped up 100%. If it's clean, then go for it. Just lower the size. Let me just get a sip of water quickly. Okay, so what I'll be looking at now is, as you can see here, we are range bound between this and this wick. Sorry, not this wick, that wick. We are range bound. So until we take out this side or this side of the range, I'm not trading. If we start to distribute below this BISI, I would start to be looking for bearish setups. Because if we start using this as resistance on price, we could start to see low prices. If this does happen, my very first target would be this low right here. Can't really see it. This low right here. Then you see how none of these wicks are taking each other out. These 3 wicks. This is nice low resistance liquidity. We should fly through these lows. So my second target would be this low right here. Right. And now, for our upside objectives, what I'm looking for is if we take premium discount of this range right here. This is our premium SIBI. if we draw this BISI out, sorry, this SIBI out, you can see it getting utilized as resistance on price until we displace above this and start utilizing it as support. You have to wait, guys, because we are range bound until we take out one side of the range and clearly using it and start using it as support and resistance and price. You do not trade, because as you can see, when we're range bound and have SMT on both sides of the marketplace, our market conditions are going to be very bad. For our upside objectives, my first objective would obviously be this high, which if we jump up to the daily, I want to be looking at this daily SIBI. This is interesting because obviously this is our premium SIBI, but if you look over at ES has already traded into our daily SIBI. So if we start rejecting, I'm not expecting NQ to reach this SIBI. However, if ES trades above this SIBI and NQ follows, then NQ has a lot of catching up to do. So either ES is going to start consolidating and NQ is going to start coming up, or NQ is just going to blast through these highs. Why do that specific BISI? Are you talking about on the hourly chart? Well, as I said before, if you take 50% of this range, sorry, there's so much on the chart right now you can't really see it very well. If you take this low right here and drag it up to this low, take 50% of this range, because this is the range that we're trading in right now. This is our discount BISI. This is why I'm using this, because this is in our discount. What else am I talking about? I think that's actually at the moment. So obviously this is our short-term target. This is the target we're looking for next. And if this gets blasted through, then I'll be looking for these highs up here, because look how smooth these highs are. You see all this liquidity down here. This is just all engineered liquidity, which we're engineering to take out later. So if anyone has any questions, drop them in the comments, in the question box right now, and me and Kamek will answer them.
First question, bro.
I'll keep getting this question. If you're talking about his Discord, TOTK, yeah, I'm in the ones that know, but I'm not in his mentorship. Everyone thinks I'm in his mentorship. I'm not in his mentorship, guys.
So he is in the TOTK, I'm in the mentorship.
Yeah. If you're talking about the hourly range, it's because this is the range that we're trading in at the moment. As you can see, this low and this high have not been taken out. We're just consolidating at equilibrium of this range. That's why we're using that range. A lot of people typing. Kamek, do you want to answer that one, or should I?
YM? Yeah, I think Nautilus should go on, because I don't really use YM, as I said yesterday.
Okay, well, my main SMT is of course going to be on ES, but when YM is trading in sync, then I use YM. But sometimes YM just goes on its own little runs and does whatever it wants, really. So when it's out of sync, I do not use YM. But when all markets are in sync, these are good market conditions, and I can use YM for SMT.
So yeah, the most of the times, if you don't see SMT between ES and NQ, you can hop on YM. That's the only times I look at YM.
Well, the way that they use such tight stop losses is SMT. SMT can be utilized on the lower time frames, and on those lower time frame wicks or highs and lows, you can move your stop up after that SMT has been formed and after we displaced up or down. There's a low, low. Sorry, Benedict, I don't understand your question.
I think he means that we have SMT on both sides.
I'm considering previous day high and previous week high. Well, previous day high, obviously that can be taken out quite quickly early on in the week, so I'm not really looking at that for the moment. Previous week high, you can be using that. So obviously, this is why I'm looking at this high, but if we start displacing above this BISI, then this high, of course, is going to get taken out. So probably before we even manage to find a setup, that high's already gone. That's why I'm looking at this high.
Also, the range that you sketched in. If you
Sorry.
zoom a little bit in, the range that you sketched in with the equilibrium, high to low. Also, if you zoom in a little, the members could see something quite interesting, I would say. I mean, consequent encroachment of the range, accumulation, manipulation, distribution. So there you can also see why this range specific is that important.
There you go. Kamek, do you want to answer that, or should I? The 8:30 question.
Just go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, 8:30. If you see 8:30 get used as manipulation, so if there's a news driver at 8:30 and it goes against your bias, so against the intended direction that you think of, then you can be expecting 9:30 to distribute. And if 8:30 uses accumulation, then 9:30 you should expect manipulation and then distribution at 10 o'clock. For its low. Sorry, are you talking about this candle right here? Is that what you're talking about, Benedict? Standard deviation. I'll not cover this in this one. I can cover it in maybe our next weekly outlook, or I might even make a whole video about it. I'm not sure at the moment.
Should be a big video, big lecture about that.
Yeah, exactly. There is so much about standard deviation. Well, because as you can see here, we already took out that range, and if we pull out if you look at equilibrium of this, um, we're not consolidating around this equilibrium. We're consolidating around this one, and we've already took out this range as high. So I'd rather use the bigger range than the smaller range. Although you can use this if you would like. It's up to you really, but I would prefer using this range here. What factors are most important in deciding whether you should take a trade on a specific day or not? Are you talking about market conditions, or what exactly are you talking about? 10 a.m. candle. Oh, okay. So you never trade before high impact news, like well, just before high impact news. You wait for it to pass because usually the algo starts accumulating orders on both sides of the market, so we're just accumulating in a super tight range. So then the high impact news has liquidity to take out, and then after that high impact news goes, then we distribute in the real direction and take out the news lows and any liquidity resting below there. Well, that's in a if the news goes up, obviously. Yeah, no, that's a really good picture you just sent, Kamek, with the AMD cycles, or the power of 3.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah. So the day before NFP, I do not trade. Uh, Day before FOMC, usually not trade, and obviously CPI, I do not trade before the day before that.
Not specifically the 900 price range, bro. You can put the range as 25, 50, 75, and every 100 digit all over your chart. Then you can mostly see some magic happen there.
Because Zeus is utilizing the 90-minute cycles, while ICT is just using that hourly range, or that hour and a half range. So with the 90-minute cycles, obviously that lines up, but ICT's lunch hour doesn't line up with those 90-minute cycles. Wait, Sufane, I don't really get your question. When previous cycle lows took out and closed below, I take a trade. Are you talking about you take a trade, you long or short after it gets closed below?
You also shouldn't just rely on previous cycle take.
Short, yeah. So just because it gets closed below does not mean that it's going to carry on down. You should obviously look at everything else because just because it gets closed below doesn't mean it's going to carry on down, because we can just sweep it and carry on in the other direction. It closed doesn't really mean anything.
also for Sophie maybe. Nautilus and I mostly, I think it's 90% of the time, we only trade purge and reverts. And if you wait to a specific time, so in a time of interest, point of interest, a previous cycle high or a PXX gets taken out, you need to wait for confirmation to take a trade though. So you need your smart money reversal there.
100% agree. I've always failed to set up a trade for 2 p.m. What? You just fail to spot the reversal? Or you fail to catch the entry? One second, guys. Cycle high or low. What are you talking about? It gets traded above or below with a fair value gap, or what?
I think he just means that the previous cycle high gets displayed through.
Yeah, well, if the previous cycle high or low gets displaced through, after it gets retested, and if it gets used as support resistance, that fair value gap should not get displaced through. If that fair value gap gets displaced through, then you can be anticipating a purge and revert. Wait, carry on. Sorry.
Just for Benedict. So if a PXX gets displaced through, as Nautilus said, we don't want the displacement to get inverse, you know? So that is the kind of model we don't really trade because it's the continuation model. And for the continuation model, you need to have a lot of patience, a lot of confirmations to take the trade. So there's your trade.
Before 9:30, open if the market conditions are good, the market's moving nicely, then I have no problem taking the trade. But if we're chopping around, and even if I see a good setup, I'm not taking it because just because you see a good setup on a really choppy day, the probabilities are still low. Coming on the unicorn model. Well, actually, I'm going to be talking about the unicorn model in my next lecture, so I'll be clearing that up lots. Before I call it a day. Yeah, well, if it's dropping before, then I'm not really expecting too much for 9:30 open, unless we do start to displays through one side. Then it could be a nice day. But if 9:30 open continues to make big wicks, then I'm done for the day. I'm not looking at the charts anymore. Yeah, exactly. If you're talking about Zeus's executions, then he's just marking out when the low high was formed. Is that all the questions for the moment?